Hey, you found ears, everyday artists, real songs. I'm your host, Aviva Gold. Today on the show, a song that is sort of like a good humor bar. It's icy and crunchy on the outside, smooth and creamy on the inside. It's Frozen by Jillian Matundan. Let's take a listen to the song and meet back here for our chat with Jillian.
Cracks on your surface, the distance between dilutes the purpose. I don't know how we ended up this way. I don't know how to reach you when you hide away, but you say stay. It's been a long, cold winter with you here. Came early in the fall, and now I'm waiting for the thaw. If it comes at all, you're frozen in, and I can't move. Suspended in time. Frozen. You look me in the eye, but you don't see. I think you hear me when I talk, but you don't listen. The days grow longer, but I can't tell. I can't help you if you won't help yourself. It's just as well. You're frozen in, and I can't move. Suspended in time. But you say stay, stay right here. Why am I'm frozen. should I?
Jillian, so good. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm flattered. I'm honored. So all good. Happy to do it.
Thank you. Um, so this song is so cold. Like that is part of the thing for me. And I say that as an ice queen. I love winter. I love ice. I love a really good ice year. I live in a cold place where sometimes we get good ice years and the rivers and the lakes freeze over and you can skate on them and you can see into the ice and you travel on the ice and it's so magical. And this song, it's cold. It's really cold. And there's so much to it and so many layers. I don't know where to start, but maybe just it's a pretty straightforward story, right? It's a conversation with a person who is in a dark place, in a relationship that's in a dark place, and everybody is stuck, frozen. Because it's a non-specified relationship and it's everybody is frozen and it comes back to everybody being in it. It's kind of a story that a lot of people could relate to. And I was wondering, as a songwriter, did you write it about something specific that was real and happening? Or did you intentionally make it something that could be relatable to many people in many circumstances?
So, well, thanks for that. And I'm also from the cold place. I'm from Syracuse, so I love the winters. Winter has a whole lot of meanings to me. So winter is also the season where you go inward, right? It's when you have the moment and the ability to kind of reflect. It's when you rest. That's the beauty of winter. That's what that season's supposed to mean. To your point about I mean, the whole thing happened because I saw an image of two koi that were stuck under a frozen pond. And so that was the beginning of me being like, "Ooh, that's cool." And it's partly because whether it's been me or, the person in a relationship with me, whether it's friendship or even romance, we've all been in those places where somebody's going through a rough time and you're doing your best to be a good partner, friend, all those things, but there's no reaching them. There's no That's something they have to go through themselves. So as much as there is you giving them that kind of space, but also just being supportive, at some point you're kind of like, when the hell are you going to snap out of this? Like this is, I don't know how to help you anymore. I just don't. Like I've given you everything. You got to take the ball and run, but they're not doing it. I mean, I've been in that situation. Sometimes because they're dealing with something like the death of a parent, or they're just sort of dealing in their own space and they can't get out of it. But we've all kind of been to a place, or we've been in a place where we're just there and we can't get out of it, and whoever's around us is just sort of collateral damage. I've been there. It was definitely, parts of it were my own story, parts of it were other people's stories. Parts of it were about, my romantic relationship with my partner, when he was going through a rough time, or me going through a rough time with, for him, and also just friends. Friends go through this all the time. So I think it's a little bit, it became universal because everybody's gone through it. But those were really the tangible things that I was playing with when I was figuring out how this song was going to
It's
go.
hilarious that it started out with fish.
Isn't it?
Which kind of leads me to another thing that really strikes me about this song as a songwriter is the very first line in the
Mhm.
song, "I see you through the cracks in the surface, in your
In you,
surface,
on your surface, yeah.
your surface."
Yeah.
Ice, for sure.
Mhm.
Was that the first line in the song when you were writing it, or did you come back?
No, that was the first line.
Wow,
Actually, wait, is that right? I think that the first line was probably the chorus, the frozen in and I can't move. But very soon after that, I think, was, I see you on the cracks of your surface. That to me was it was also written during the pandemic. So I think there's a whole lot of, we're all swimming in this sea of emotions. But I think that we were all trying to put on our best face. We just were. We were just trying to do our thing and be in the moment. And I think that people inevitably were showing their cracks in ways I don't think any of us normally would under normal circumstances. So I think that part of that was, I think the first line, of course, was like, I see you through the cracks on the surface. And then I thought, no, no, no. It's on your surface, to be very clear. I mean, then that's when immediately my editing brain was going, no, 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 this can't be so vague. When that line popped into my head, I went, oh yeah, that's it. That's the first line. That's the first line of the song for sure. I just knew. Yeah.
yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
Thanks.
I think a lot about the difference between, well, or like song versus performance. So like what is, the heart of the song versus the the performance of it, the version of it.
Yeah.
And my first hearing of this song was in the context of the whole album, and so it's that recording of it, which is I'm really fixating a little bit on the coldness of it.
That's okay. That was the idea.
Yeah, and there's so much about that particular recording that's particularly cold. The mandolin is so
Mhm.
pointy, kind
Yep.
of, and there's some like icy, like there's like a cymbal thing that happens, and there's some like a just really spare tambourine maybe, and
Yeah.
really, really spare harmonies. And the whole effect is awesome. How did that come together? Was that like your vision of it, or is it the collaborators and everybody getting together in the studio? Was it the engineer? Was it somebody's idea? How did that come to
Mhm.
be?
Well, this song when I play it solo is very. I have a percussive style
Yes,
on this song. Just
absolutely. I
generally,
was going to
I have
ask you
a
about that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I can save that, but I think that I had already put a spin on it based on my percussive playing on it. Two people there's plenty of people on this album, especially on that song, but two of the people, my friend Marcy Cochran, who played the mando on that, and my friend Michelle Swan, who plays the guitar and does harmonies on that. We were playing that together when I first wrote it, so that evolved. Maybe it's obvious there's two guitars, but I don't think it is right away. My part is pretty solid all the way through. By that, it's sort of the same sort of riff over and over again. It's capoed at 5. No reason not to tell the secrets of this. It was capoed at 5 because I really liked how sparkly it sounded. It sounded to me a little bit like ice, the way the ice would shimmer.
Yeah.
When I was messing around with where it goes, of course, I'm always down in standard, and I hadn't capoed it, but the second I started playing this song, I was like, it should be capoed. So I tried it at like 3. I tried it at 4. But when I hit 5, I thought, oh yeah, that's it. So that's, my part is very much like just the steady, here's the sort of, the song moves on this train, and this is sort of what that train does. When, Marcy's played violin on it, she's played mando on it, but the second that she played mando, I was like, that's it. That's the sound. That's that like high, it's really complementing it kind of sound. And then, my friend Michelle said, hey, can I try a guitar part? And I said, sure. Cause she was learning the harmonies. And so she put it really high. I think she's at like 7. And so her stuff is that stuff. Her part is the stuff that's like, ba-doom, boom, ba-dum, like that. It's sort of like a echo, but it's really pointed and it kind of hangs. Whereas my part's really short. Her part kind of move, like it sort of is a little bit longer. So it does this really interesting effect to the rest of the mix. So to me, those pieces were already in place when we went to go record it. I did not want to change those things. Marcy, I think, changes it every time. And I think that what she'd done on the recording was great. This song took 3 years, right? Like the whole album took 3 years. So my first producer on the album, he was a percussionist. So he immediately heard that like driving in it. And if you listen very carefully, this is something he did. And I think it's really interesting. And I think it adds a lot of dimension to the song. So this is where I'm a big fan of collaborators and great musicians coming together and figuring out how that all comes together. If you listen to the verses versus the chorus, that snare hits in different places, right? So like, it's pretty much like a train, and that snare comes in like ta, ta. But by the time you get to the chorus, it's just a little off. Instead of being on the 2, it's on the and of the 2, right? So it's sort of like this little thing, but it just changes the way that the chorus feels, and then it goes right back to the other thing. And then, I have a great the bassist on it was fantastic, and really all you're hearing other than that are the harmonies. Now the harmonies, like every person in the studio, you're going to give more than we actually use. To your point about was that what I wanted? I think that of course all the magic that you do in the studio is in the mixing and the cutting. And it was almost too much. I had to pare back a lot of it. An abundance of riches, I would say. I recognized that I really wanted it to build in a very specific way. And in order to do that, it meant pulling back on some of the harmonies, actually. So making it sparse, making it a little bit more intentional was kind of what happened. And, that song, I want to say that was like the second song we worked on that we really like mixed. And it took a while, but I think that was also the first one that we were pretty quick to say, that's it. That's the sound we want. It was a mix of a lot of things, but for me, the joy of music is in the collaboration sometimes and playing with other people. But yeah, that was definitely a lot of it was intentional, but so much of it was other people's interpretation that just were beautiful.
So the whole album, it's super interesting. It has a feel to it that ties it all together, but every single song is completely different. So, there's some magic there. Were you working with the same people through the whole process?
Yes and no. I had different producers on this album. I started recording this in 2021, and that was COVID. So, you couldn't go to the studio unless you took a test. It had to be negative. Like all those things. You can have more than 2 people in the studio at the same time. I mean, there were so many rules around what you could and couldn't do. This album, though, I only went into the studio 4 times, personally into the studio. After that, it was all virtual or just trust. There were a lot of people who mailed in parts. And yeah, I wasn't going to put them through the hassle of trying to get to the studio like that. There were a lot of folks who came into the studio though. I mean, a lot of the harmony singers, Kelly Lynott and Raquel Vidal, they came in, Michelle, Marcy, other people just submitted and it was great. So all that said though, yeah, there's no theme necessarily to this album except for maybe my own personal stuff that I was dealing with. But I think that, thematically, that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, I don't know that I could put a name on what the theme is, but I will say it was the soundtrack to my winter 2025. But I think it holds together.
I'm glad you think that though. Thank you.
It does. It's beautiful. Do you ever perform these songs like with a band?
No, I mean, usually lately, and the thing about me is, I did this break. I hadn't played music in 15 years. And then I came back in 2019, and I started writing again. And so all that to say, the reason I say that is because one of the reasons I didn't write for so long was because I was always in a band. I'd never been a solo performer. And so to me, I was like, well, I can't possibly write music without other people. But I every time I write, I hear it. I can hear another band. I can hear the musicians playing. But I have performed this once with a full band. It was for the release of it in December. We did the release in December on the solstice. So we did a big festival here in Virginia, and I made it a music festival with other artists who are on the album because I just thought, this is so much more fun when they're here. It was really fun to be back in a band for that. Yeah, but that's the only time. Every time it's been me. It's been me solo.
On your website, there's a version of this particular song that's just you and a guitar in a room. And you mentioned your percussive style. There's a very specific Jillian Matundan guitar slap thing. And this is like a song that really showcases that. Is that part of your process in a general way? Like when you pick up a guitar?
Wow, that's a great question. No. One of the things I wanted to do during the pandemic, the one thing I failed at doing during the pandemic was learning how to clawhammer banjo. Not because I didn't try, just because like after a while I was like, now what? And I didn't really get very far. But because of that, I think it informed this weird slap thing that I started doing. Frozen is actually the first song I did it on. Frozen is the one. And I'm not the only person who plays like that. There are plenty of people who do it. But I think that I've honed it, I've refined it since. It actually shows up in 3 places on that album. I've been very cognizant to not necessarily do it as much because, it's nice to have a signature sound. I know a lot of people are like, wow, that's very specific. It's just really, I was learning how to hammer banjo. So it's just really hitting the string with this part of a lot of people ask, it's this part of my finger. And it's just, it's just really natural for me to be able to move my fingers like that. So yeah, I've learned to be less exuberant with it.
So you mentioned that you took 15 years off. Because like I've seen you play maybe 100 different instruments. And I don't even know you that well. I think somewhere on your website it says something about classical training and you just mentioned earlier there were bands. Can we get the history?
Oh God. All right. Well, I'll try to make it quick and interesting. I've been trained on 3 instruments. I started when I was 3. I was a Suzuki kid on the violin. So I was actually training to be a concert violinist from the time I was 6 or 7. I was practicing like 3 hours a day because that's what you do when you're doing it. But I loved it. And I was pretty good at it, And so I liked that. I was good at something and I enjoyed it. That was important. I want to be clear. But around that time, I also started learning piano. I started taking lessons. By the time I was 8, I was taking lessons, but I didn't stay with it for very long. In high school, I was in an orchestra. But along the way, I learned flute. So I was learning flute because I was musically inclined and there was no string thing. So I was like, well, let me learn a woodwind. So I learned how to play the flute. Well, by the time I was a junior, it turned out I had like free time during the concert orchestra. So for some reason, I just picked up a bass and I started learning the bass. And, the cello and bass teacher showed me a few things and that was it. He unlocked it. He was like, a cello's in thirds, a bass is in fourths. I was like, oh, so I started playing the bass. And then around the time I was 13, I got interested in the guitar. And that's when I started learning guitar. And that's also the time that I started listening, I was listening to the Cranberries. They were very big at the time, Pearl Jam, right? Like all those big bands like in the 90s, the grunges and all those things. But it was also the time of me discovering folk, Dar Williams and Ani DeFranco, and then also Dave Matthews, right? Like all these people who were playing guitar really, really well. And I was like, oh, I got to learn that. So I started teaching myself that. And back then we didn't have the internet, right? So we had to do it all by ear. And, maybe somebody knew a couple things, and maybe you could figure out a couple of notes here and there. And every now and then a musician or a band would put out like a book with tabs, and you were like, oh, this is great. Now I can actually learn this stuff. And so that's when I started a band. I started a band in high school. I was playing primarily guitar, but my friend John and I also, we had a duet. We both played violin. We both played guitar. Now we started a band, and the band played a lot of things. We were a cover band, so it was fun. But then we started recording a little bit. I started writing a little bit. And then by the time I graduated from there and I graduated from college, I was in New York City and I was writing and I got stuck. And that's when I was like, I don't even have a band right now. Like, I got to figure that out. And then life happened and I started doing other things and I stopped playing music. So, that's sort of what happened. I still played I did play in the Lawyers Orchestra in New York City for a long time. And then I moved to Albany and I played with the community orchestra there. And I sometimes would break up my guitar, do some covers, play some things. But around this time, I started playing ukulele. Like, I just started adding instruments as I went. But by the time I moved in Albany, I also thought I wanted to break out of my classical training because my friend wanted to write a musical and I wanted to write the music for it. And I was like, I can't. I'm so like, I have this sort of thing on. I need to learn something new. So I started taking sitar classes. I wanted to find the thing that was like not Western music. I wanted to find, and because I liked it, I was like, what the heck, I might as well learn it. But then I just, I got so busy and I couldn't really keep up with it. So, and then along the way, I started learning other things, percussion. I played percussion in the jazz band. Like, there was crazy stuff that I've done, but it's just like, but it's fun. All of that's really fun to me. Music is clearly, I love having it back in my life.
That's crazy a lot. So when did you start writing?
Ooh, I started writing when I was 13. I wrote my first song then. It's pretty emo. It's hilarious. My band played it. My band used to play it. We played it like, it's like, it was very, you can hear the grunge in it, I played it a couple, like every now and then I'll play it on like the live stream or something. I'll just kind of mess around with it. I'll pull it out just for fun. But I started writing in high school. And then I think I probably wrote like 4 or 5 songs before the break, before the 15 year, sort of like, oh, I can't, I'm stuck. And then when I went back to it after the Writing a Song That Matters retreat, the first one I went to, I came out of that with like two or three songs. And the first song that I wrote during that retreat was the one that I left 15 years before on the table. I finally finished it, and to me, it was like cathartic. I was like, oh God, I'm done with that. I can start writing again, and that's Monkey Paw on the EP.
So we should probably explain really quickly right here that you are referring to a retreat that the amazing Dar Williams and her incredible team convene regularly called Writing a Song That Matters, that are sort of like extensions of her excellent book called How to Write a Song That Matters. And it's no wonder you came out of that retreat unstuck. So when you're writing a song, you're doing that with the guitar for the most part?
Yeah. I think there have been a few times where I've tried playing other instruments, but to me, the guitar is the vehicle by which I write the most. There was one song that I wrote with the Wildflowers where it started with bass, but primarily it's guitar.
The artwork that goes with Singing to the Moon.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Oh, thank
That's your artwork, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
What's the relationship between the art and the music?
The album originally had a different cover. The album cover was, when you open up the album, you'll see an owl. And that was drawn by another artist whose work I love. The owl was really interesting because she took what I was saying about the album and the songs on it, and she created that, which was really cool. And I think it's such a great print. And so there are t-shirts and buttons of it, because it's just a cool print. But in the end, it turned out that it made more sense for me to put something a little bit more personal as the cover. Also because one of my producers was like, you have to put your picture on the front. And I was like, I don't want to put my picture on the front. I don't like these pictures. I want to put something else. And then it was like, what if I put my art on it? And it was like, yeah, okay, that's the right move. It didn't occur to me that it was something that I should do until much later in the process. And then I was like, oh, I totally should do that.
Well, I love it. I have it on a t-shirt and a coffee mug. The only other thing I wanted to ask you is if there is anything else about Frozen that we didn't cover.
That song, it surprised me how well it did. I think I knew it was a song that I liked. It surprises me. It's one that other people do. To your point, I think it is relatable, but I think people really enjoy the actual music too. This song has sort of become the thing. This is the song that people ask me to play. This is the song people expect me to play. It's won awards, which is really cool. I think what makes this really interesting for me is everything was so intentional in this song. And I don't know that I had done that to this, like to that extent, to that point in my writing. It's not that I've tried to recreate it, but that feeling when I wrote it is definitely something I try to recreate when I write, because there was, the magic, right? When you're writing a song and that's it. That's the line. That's the way. Yeah. And you just lock in. And that feeling of writing it is something that I'm always trying to get back into, because that felt really locked in. So it's just really nice to know that that's what people are responding to too.
Yeah, it's like that feeling is some kind of marker of something, like something real or true or authentic, or like you said, it's magic. Wow, Jillian, thank you so much for this. This has been an absolute blast.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Jillian Matundan, everybody. Catch her in all the places and on social media. She does regular live streams, but start at her website, jillianmatundan.com. This has been Ears. Thanks for listening.